Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's featured Reddit stories are from MaliciousCompliance. Story 1 is by Board Eastly. Do not interrupt when I'm talking. This was a few years back, after over a decade of doing a complex job above average, getting many compliments and letters of thanks. My new boss was irritated at me interrupting. My role was everything the technical people didn't do. Trash duty, phones, conference room, calendars, contracts, finance, training, facilities, purchasing, equipment, etc. It was realistic to say that a couple times a day, some wildfires, often technical work stoppages, needed the boss's input. This, even after I headed off many problems before they reached his attention. About a couple weeks in, he told me that under no circumstances was I to interrupt any conversation he was in, and like a good little bootlicker, the second in charge added that he too was tired of my interruptions too, and needed to stop. As karma would have it, not even a day later, both of them were deep into a conversation about baseball. Absolutely nothing to do with work, and normally I would have interrupted. They both saw me multiple times and didn't ask what I needed. I waited patiently with pleading eyes while they stretched out their conversation. After a few minutes, I started shifting foot to foot. Probably looked like I needed to use the bathroom, and yet they didn't stop. Finally, when they soaked up all the fun they could and ran out of baseball things to say, the boss, in a very snarky tone, asks if there's something I needed him for. Yes, sir. Your boss's boss, Mr. Nameless here, is waiting on the phone. I could see the blinking phone line from where I was standing, and he was indeed still waiting, and he needs to speak to you right now. Not one smirk or iota of disrespect from me, but I did leave to use the bathroom even though I didn't need it. Policy canceled right after that call. Lol. How in the world do they have somebody that has that many roles? This person sounds like a secretary who also does trash duty? That's so strange to me. Maybe it's not that big an organization, and so they just kind of gave him all these jobs to do? Anyway, that's crazy though. You don't ever have somebody who's on phone duty not interrupt your conversations. If they have something important to tell you, they will. And as much as people do love baseball, especially lately with the last World Series, it's not an important topic for work. Our next story is by PureHeart7915. Sick leave needs a note. Just read a post about sick leave policy backfiring and wanted to post my own story about it. Old work friend, we'll call him Jesse, is a retired U.S. Marine. Guamanian, chill as heck, and un-F-with-able. Yes, you can't F with the guy. He was one of the coolest guys you'd ever meet, personable and worked hard. Can't say enough good things about him. Our supervisor was brand new and one of these perpetual yes men. Anything the middle and upper management mentioned, even in passing, was holy gospel for this guy. I tell you, his lips were brown. He did everything in his power to kiss the starfish. Oh, that's gross. Regardless of the impact on everyone's personal life or work environment, it didn't even register with this guy. 0 foxes given for his people. Just whoever was above him. Jesse, being older, was looking at retirement. Between the corp and his civvy job, he was done doing a 9-to-5. He was beginning to have health issues and had frequent doctor's appointments. Right around the holidays, everyone wants to take leave, and we have a 50% staffing policy pretty much across the board at work. No more than half our shop can be off at the same time. So it gets pretty cutthroat around Thanksgiving and Christmas. Everyone wants to flounce out for the holidays. New boss wants to be the personal savior of everything company. Tells everyone that we're going to do 75% staff instead and proceeds to shut down all our leave slips. Cue everyone getting, quote, sick. Boss gets mad and demands doctor's notes for all sick days, appointments, anything outside of work. Well, we all have pretty good insurance, so a $25 copay is now a day-off bounty. And there was pretty much a mutiny in the shop over this jerk's continuous stream of stupid policy. This hits Jesse especially hard. He's got a lot of crap breaking down in his old body. After about the 6th or 7th time this new boss verbally dresses down Jesse for taking excessive sick time, he snaps. You want notes? You got 'em. He went through the union contract and discovered that documentation doesn't have to be in the form of an actual doctor. Need a day because you felt sick? All you need per the union contract is a receipt for a bottle of Tylenol. Dentist appointment? The reminder note for your next appointment. The crown jewel of the shenanigans was his colonoscopy. Jesse got the proctologist to screenshot a picture of the inside of his colon and used it as his note. He retired a champion. Place hasn't been the same without him. From starfishes to pictures of the inside of your rear end. This one was a pretty epic story. I always say this, but there's a lot of stories that I read, but I'm not sure that they're real. This one feels like it is real, because who's going to do that? Actually have the doctor take a screenshot of them examining the inside of your body. That's generally not something that I think people make up. So there's your sick note. There's your sick note. In my experience, most doctors will give you a doctor's note if you just say you don't feel great, because they're more than happy to have you come in and pay them copay, and then they're willing to give you a note. They're not even going to make sure you're sick. They're just going to be like, they came to me because they felt like they were sick, so they're sick. So it really sucks having managers that are trying to pad their bottom line or impress their uppers. Look at how many great changes I'm making to your business. A lot of these jobs that people have can even be done from home, and they still try to make you stay at work, stay in the office, especially during Christmas season, holiday season, when everybody wants to go home anyway. And a lot of people live in cold areas where you are getting sick, and sickness is spreading around. And during the middle of winter is when illnesses spread. Regardless, I love to see employees winning against jerk managers. It's some of my favorite content. Our last story today is by Impossible Mine 2065. I thought I had mastered malicious compliance, then my wife showed me how it's really done. For this story, you need to know that I am the kind of person who will go a great distance for a good laugh, as you will see below. I love this story and will tell it every once in a while, even though it's been more than 20 years. I live in the US and I own an IT support company. Many years ago, I used a cell phone company named Nextel. They had this great push-to-talk feature that turns your phone into a walkie-talkie, which was perfect for communicating with coworkers in my IT work. However, their customer service was a nightmare. Anytime I needed to contact them, it would take at least 30 to 40 minutes on hold. Eventually, I had to switch to a cheaper service, which meant getting a new number. Nowadays, you can port your number to a new carrier, but back then you had to change numbers if you switched carriers. I canceled all the phones on our plan except for mine, which I downgraded to an emergency plan costing about $10 a month. I left the old phone plugged in at my office and set my voicemail message to instruct callers of my new number. The phone just sat next to my desk on a shelf plugged into a charger so that I could see if anyone called. I could also hear the phone make a sound when it disconnected from the cellular network, and then a different sound when it connected to the cellular network. It connected and disconnected constantly there in my office. I would estimate that it only stays connected to the network about 50% of the time. After 6 months, I decided to cancel it. I had to wait on hold for the customary 30 to 40 minutes just to cancel my service. After telling the service rep that I was always dropping off the network and that I had already switched services, they verified the service problems on my account and canceled my entire plan. I wasn't under any contract at the time, so there was no problem canceling my service with Nextel. As expected, I got my final bill. It was somewhere around $10 since that was my monthly plan, just the emergency plan, and I didn't make any phone calls. I paid the bill and was happy to be done with that carrier. Then, the next month, I got a bill for 4 cents. Yes, just 4 cents. I figured it was a clerical error and ignored it, expecting them to write it off. But no. Each month, another bill for 4 cents arrived. I was incredulous. I checked the postmark and saw that the postage to send me the bill was costing them 10 times more than the bill itself. And they kept sending the bill every month. I could have paid the bill, but it seemed ridiculous to write a check for 4 cents and spend more on a stamp. After 6 months, I finally had enough and decided on some very petty malicious compliance. I decided to invest the 40 minutes on hold to call Nextel to work this out. By golly, if they wanted my 4 cents, I would give them my 4 cents. I planned to wait on hold for 40 minutes and pay the 4 cents with a credit card, knowing it would cost them more in fees. I told my wife about my plan, thinking it was the perfect malicious compliance story. But my wife, the true master of malicious compliance, suggested an even better idea. Call and ask if I could make payments on the 4 cents, splitting it into 2 payments on my credit card. Oh my God, I was in the presence of malicious royalty. I called, waited on hold for 40 to 45 minutes, and finally got through to a representative. The representative sounded like one of those airport terminal attendants who act like they are checking reservations, but instead they're writing a Stephen King-length novel. I could hear the clickety-clack sound of the keyboard. The female representative was constantly typing as I explained that I had canceled my service but kept getting the final bill and proposed making payments. The representative, typing away, said she'd look up my account. As she typed away at her keyboard, I explained that I had gotten a final bill and that I would like to set up a payment plan to take care of the outstanding balance. I told her that I would like to pay half on my credit card today and pay the remaining half the following month. She was agreeing with me and typing away when suddenly she stopped typing and went quiet. "Sir," she said. "Yes," I replied. "Are you aware of the balance amount?" "Yes," I said. 4 cents? She said. "Yes," I said. "I figured that you really wanted that 4 cents because you keep spending all this postage to send me the bills each month, so I'm just calling you to take care of it." After a brief silence, I heard the clickety-clack of the keyboard again, and she said that I would not have to worry about the balance because she was writing it off. I insisted on giving my credit card for the first half of the payment, but she firmly dismissed it and assured me I wouldn't get any more bills. My wife's suggestion turned a simple prank into a masterpiece of malicious compliance. I may be good at it, but my wife is on another level, and you really have to want to do malicious compliance to wait on hold for 40 minutes. I think the most suggested comment underneath this was to send them 4 pennies taped to a piece of paper and say, "Here's my bill payment." Well, what are they going to do with that? Take the 4 cents and deposit it into the bank? I'm sure people mail them cash all the time to pay for something. Some people just have cash on hand and they may not have a credit card. But that would have been a pretty epic way to handle it too. This just goes to show, though, that they don't really have somebody paying attention in their billing department. I'm sure most systems nowadays have like a certain threshold. If they have a balance of like $2 or less, they just write it off by default. But this one didn't have that, and they sent you a bill for 4 cents. They just have automated printing out bills, and they just stuff them in envelopes and don't even check the amount. I'm sure that's all that happened here. Still, it's pretty funny that you tried to pay it off in 2 installments, once each month, depending on the time. If this was like 20 years ago, I don't really know for sure, but I know that you couldn't buy things at stores several years ago if they were under a certain amount by credit card because it would cost them more to do the transaction. You had to buy a certain amount. I bet this would cost them like $2 for a 4 cent transaction via credit card. And if you did it to them twice, it would cost them $8 for their 4 cents. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a perfect day.